Vitru is another one. Synapse is another one. Context Optional is another one. Buddy Media is sort of the big player in the industry, and there may be a couple others, but it's a pretty finite group. And the reason is because these tools have access to Facebook. So they get in on all the beta releases that Facebook has. They are literally connected in with Facebook, and so it's a small number of companies that have that access. I refer to it almost as a content management system for Facebook. So they have to have access to Facebook in order to provide those services, so there aren't a ton of those companies out there. And again, I think Buddy Media is the one that's a little bit more plug and play for if you just want to test out a couple things. The other ones are more enterprise level systems. Yes?
You touched on contests kind of briefly. Is there an easy way, or kind of an easy way to run them? We've done ones in the past, and I know that the Facebook guidelines are very
Very
airtight.
strict, yep.
And even if it's a simple giveaway, they can take down our page, and we have a lot of time equity invested in our pages, and now, hundreds of thousands of fans. And so I'm reluctant to, give away an inner tube or something to risk the page.
To risk,
versus
yeah.
spending a sizable investment in Wildfire or something to execute the content.
Right. It's a tough question. It's very, very risky to do a Facebook promotion or contest without using a third party. It's just risky because they do have a ton of guidelines that are very, very tight, and they will punish you. It's sort of like, again, in 2005, we'd always say, don't violate Google's guidelines, because if they pull you down, you're dead, man. We can't save you. We cannot pull you out of that sandbox. It's the same thing with Facebook. So there are a number of ways to use third-party tools, and it doesn't have to be one of the application providers. You can use ePrize, that's another one, and there are many, many others that will execute just the contest portion if you want to do everything else in-house. Other than that, they do publish their guidelines, but again, there is some risk involved. Yes?
Do you have any examples of how financial service companies are using Facebook?
I have talked to a couple people in insurance that are using Facebook applications. We have a client in financial services who we're trying to coax into this arena a little bit more. Haven't done a ton of it ourselves for them. They're not quite there yet. But they are launching a blog, which is very exciting for us. And they are on Twitter, which is very exciting for us. But it's interesting if you jump around in Facebook and you look at like Allstate. I think they're doing some pretty amazing stuff. Liberty Mutual? I think Liberty Mutual is another one that's doing some really cool consumer-focused, though, Facebook application things. So if you jump around a little bit within Facebook, you can sort of see many of the applications, just as a side note, are fan-gated, which means you have to like the brand in order to participate in the application, whatever it is, if it's a contest or a survey or a poll. So sometimes you will have to like them in order to participate, but it's a great way to see what your competitors or some of your the other people in your industry are doing. Yes?
Have you had much success using Facebook advertising to build likes or site traffic?
It's really interesting. The question was, have you had a lot of success using Facebook advertising to promote? And there's no straight answer that I can give you on that. It really depends for us on the client and the promotion and what we're running, the creative. We have found that when we have a really good ad that's very targeted to the right people, and a really good Facebook application for them to land on, and a really clear call to action, it can work very well. It's sometimes hard to line all of those up. So sometimes our clients just get us up on Facebook. We just want to run a Facebook campaign. And then they want to drive the traffic to their website, and it's not as good of a landing page or a user experience as we would like. Sometimes there's some tweaking, but there are definitely instances where we've seen when all the ducks are in a row that it can work very, very well. I'm a proponent of Facebook advertising if it's done the right way. I also think that there's a lot of noise now on Facebook, where a couple years ago there was hardly any. And the reason for that is because they went out and hired the person who essentially created Google AdWords. And that person has created an algorithm within Facebook, which serves up ads based on your experiences and your behaviors, and thus is meant to get you to click a lot more than you would on a typical display ad. I think the results are still out there to be seen. Yes?
I'm starting to see on Facebook pages where people are running like Q&A sessions.
Mhm.
A lot of people. Have you had any experience with that, or any cautions or anything?
I have. I think it's great. I think it works really, really well. The only cautions I would say is that it has to be created well. You know, it has to work very well. And it can be a little bit buggy because it's typically a custom application. At least in our case it was. It wasn't something that was available to buy on the shelf. We had to create it ourselves. So we did a lot of testing to make sure that it worked well. And it has to be promoted. Because that's one thing that people, our clients, oftentimes forget, is that just because you build it doesn't mean they will come. You know, the old baseball adage, which I used to use all the time in the early days of Google as well. You know, you need to promote it. You need to use search to drive. You need to use Facebook ads to drive. You need to promote the event, if it's an event or a chat or a Q&A or an Ask the Expert, whatever it is. You really want to get out there and make sure people know about it. It has worked very, very well for us. Anyone else? I think we have maybe 30 seconds left. One more question? Do you want to see the video again? Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here today, and if you have any questions, feel free to stop.